What's up, team? If you've ever wondered how you could do 6, maybe even 7 figures in one day, you're in the right place. If you've ever wondered how to simplify your business and what that looks like, how to work way less, you're also in the right place. Because in this video, we're going to reveal to you the power and simplicity of virtual events. Now, we haven't met before. My name is Dale Antrim, and this is my business partner, Justin Boyum.
Yeah, it's so much fun to do this with you. Like you mentioned, Dale, we're partners here. But for those who may have not met either one of us, we both kind of have unique backgrounds that makes this a lot of fun for us. You coming from a ministry background and me
Yep.
coming from a
Yep.
military background. And what that really means and why that's interesting when it comes to virtual events and why we're excited to share this with you is that, from a military leadership perspective and from a ministry leadership perspective, we are both accustomed to being able to speak with messaging, to be able to move a group of people, be it a congregation or a company or a battalion of soldiers, towards a common mission and a common set of values. And events are exactly the place for that, especially if you're the kind of person who has a movement in you and you're trying to impact others in a positive way. That's why we do this too.
I discovered the power of events, and that's where Justin and I started working together, making a bunch of money doing events, and then something terrible happened. Right? I mean,
Well,
3
I'd say,
years.
yeah. Well, you could say it's terrible, although I could say it's also a great
Oh my
kind of
God!
thing that happened for business.
Yeah,
You're over on the East Coast, right? I'm here in Texas, kind of in the middle of America. I
yeah.
don't know who's watching this, where you are. A couple years ago, there was this crazy thing that was happening. They called it COVID.
Just in
I
case
don't
you
know if you
missed
heard
it.
about it, right? And it completely changed the game, right? What you used to do, and
Yeah.
I used to be in small business where I would literally hobnob and go shake hands and hand out business cards. Couldn't do that anymore, right? You couldn't get into a room like Tony did with Tony Robbins, by the way, did with like Unleashed Power Within. It had to suddenly become virtual, but everybody got trained to be virtual. And I can tell you this, as an entrepreneur, it's a game changer, right? I spent some time in corporate after the military, struggling, hating life, made my entrepreneurship journey, but then I discovered what a lot of entrepreneurs discover, that you end up being willing to work 80 hours a week so you don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else. And so I'm constantly up against the grind, not necessarily making the money at first that I wanted to. And then events were a total game changer because you could do all of your sales that you would normally do in a month or 2 months or 3 months all in one day.
In the ministry, I did these large events, and I'll tell you what, it was, you were exhausted because you had the planning, you had you had to get a place to hold the event, you had to get the equipment for the event, you had to book the food for the event, there were so many things that went into that. And I mean, you've probably seen like some of these guys, these big players in the game, like Tony Robbins and Russell Brunson, and they do these on-site events and so on. But then they started moving into this virtual event space, and that's when we got involved in that. And so it's like watching these people, what Justin was saying, making 6 and 7 figures in one day using a virtual event. Like,
And
whoa.
that's why we're bringing this to you. Obviously, you're on
Yeah.
this page. You understand we're doing the Epic Virtual Events Live Masterclass. And that's what we want to share with you. And some of the things that we're going to take you through is, what if you had a system? Dale talked about this is really simple. Well, we also want to create a system that's simple to
Yeah.
follow. And we want to show you what that system is, where it really starts with, and again, I love this. The military person in me is like, hey, we're going to make decisions, right? I love, like, we're going to be very pointed. What are the decisions you have to make when you run a virtual event so that you can properly plan and execute on one? Like, what's the name of it? What's the purpose of it? Like, we're going to dive into what those things are and how you can adopt that for yourself.
Yeah.
And then what's the next logical step? Well, if I'm going to do an event, I got to figure out how to fill that room. That's the next part of the system. And there's so many
But we
different
help you with
strategies
all
that
of
you
that.
use, right? There's so many different strategies you can use. We're going to take you through how can you fill the room without
Yeah.
having to necessarily spend a bunch of money on ads and testing if you don't want to do ads, or spend money on sponsorships, right? Like they used to do for in-person virtual or in-person events, right? But what are some more organic strategies? What are some other leverage ways that you can fill the room, even if you're just getting started, even if nobody knows your name, even if you don't even have one email yet, you can fill a virtual event, and it's just a ton of fun. Because after you've filled the room, right, Dale, the next thing that we're going to have to talk about, okay, well, what do you say in a virtual event? Because a virtual event is not your typical webinar.
Well, and I
Right?
think a lot of people, maybe they don't have the experience being on a stage, or maybe you're good at your business, but you don't have that skill. Well, that's where Justin and I come in. Like, we do it all for you. This is done for you. Like, we, from A to Z, we come in and we help and we're alongside of you, and we literally join with you to communicate your passion and your purpose.
Yeah. And so what we're going to do during the masterclass, we're going to show you what kind of content needs to be curated, obviously modeled and adopted to what you do,
Yep.
but we're going to show you in the masterclass, what do you say? And that takes people in that journey from cold or warm to hot and ready to make the decision. Because like I said, what we've seen is if you do that right, 20 to 30% of the people you have in that room will take you up on your offer, even if it's 20,000, 30,000, $40,000 or more. If you've
Yep.
done it the right way, you can have that kind of level of impact. Can you imagine, like, if you were able to sell 20% of a room? Like, I know a lot of people, when they're doing high ticket sales, they're spending hours to get those calls. They're spending hours on those calls, and they're maybe getting 10 or so percent of those sales sometimes to actually take the action. We can do that all in one day and have a 20 to 30% closing rate and enrollment rate for your high ticket programs. It's amazing. What do you say?
No, I was just gonna say, in the words of a friend of ours, it's crazy town. Like, these
Crazy
immersions,
stuff. Right.
these immersion style events are what
Mhm.
cause a cash infusion immersion. It causes conversion. It moves people through this. It accelerates your revenue,
Yeah.
and it changes you. It really changes the game.
I do want to stress that you're going to learn the principles here in this masterclass, right? Because sometimes the tools or tactics might change. We're going to show you the principles of how this works. And so, and
Yep.
then obviously we'll give you some up to date tactics and tools while we're in here, but we're going to mainly be focused on the principles so that you know what to do. Because after you've hosted an event, you created that immersion that created the conversion. Well, you have post event, right? How do you follow up with people if you need to? How do you properly onboard and enroll when you've suddenly got a massive infusion of new clients? And how
Yep.
do you deliver for that? And how do you deliver well? Because you don't want to suffer in your delivery because you've got a hire on the front end, right? So we want to show you all that process. It's highly systematized, which I love as a military person, right? I'm all about structure, and it's just a lot of fun. And that is kind of the system that we're going to take. And we're going to dive into those each of those areas much deeper during the masterclass. If what we're saying resonates with you, if you want a system that can consistently bring in, 5, 6, and
Yep.
7 figure revenue days, where you can be not only just for the revenue, but be serving. If you've got a movement where you really want to change lives for the positive, there's no better way here. And I can't encourage you enough to like go wherever you're on this page. You've probably done this before, right? We're doing the Epic virtual events live masterclass, and go on this page, register for that. And then for those of you who are prepared to go all in and sign up for VIP, we're going to even doing some more intimate, exclusive Q&A where we are not going to leave the room. I have committed, Dale has committed. We are not going to leave the room until every question is answered, and you can leave that room prepared to go run your own virtual event and serve more and more people. So if
I
you're
mean, I
serious,
mean,
not curious, and you want to make it rain like a hurricane, go get a ticket,
yeah,
get in the
I mean,
room. It's gonna be
you're
fun.
already doing what you're doing, and you can kind of just keep on doing what you're doing. You could do that every day. Maybe you like that grind and being busy, but what Justin's talking about is, look, we care about you, and we hope you have a blast. We want you to have a blast doing what you love, but we want to make it simple for you, and we want to help you help others, right? We want to help you grow your business. Click on the link below and really register for this event, because it'll change your life.
I don't want to say anything else because it can be tempting. I don't know where you are in your business, right? There's lots of noise out there. There's lots of things you could be doing,
Yep.
and there's lots of things that could be distracting you. There is no better to do than to really be sharpening that axe and figuring out what's the way that's going to get you to the next level. I can guarantee you it's not working harder, right? This is a system that you can implement that will help you scale at a massive rate, but simply without the stress. And so, is it worth your time? If we only showed you how to bring people in the room and how to enroll more people all at once rather than having to grind for those sales calls, would it be worth your time? I would think so for most of you. And so, get a ticket, come in the room, and again, we're ready to serve, and we can't wait to see you there.
Epicvirtualevents.live.com. Can't wait to see you in the event.
See you there.